Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Monday, December 21st, and I've got your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thank you so much for choosing to be here, and I want to say to everyone, Happy Victory Monday. It's another Victory Monday. The Cleveland Browns beat the New York Giants last night on Sunday Night Football. You were able to watch it right here on Channel 3, so if you didn't catch that game, that's the headline. That's the top story from there. We'll talk a little bit more about what happened after the game in just a bit. But today is another day, positive day for a lot of Americans who will likely be receiving another stimulus check according to a deal that was struck in Congress. There's a second stimulus check that is expected as part of the deal, and the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate are supposed to vote on that today. President Donald Trump has said that he looks forward to signing a bill imminently after it's passed. So what we're looking at here is a deal that was agreed to late on Sunday, and what it would do is send most Americans stimulus checks of $600. That's half what was received under the first stimulus package, the U.S. CARES Act. Most Americans received checks for $1,200. This cut in half. And also a change to the amount of money for dependent children. It will be $600 per dependent child, according to what we know of the bill. Again, we haven't seen the text of the bill yet, but that's what we're hearing. And previously, that was $500 per dependent child. This new agreement also would establish a temporary $300 per week supplement jobless benefit. So that's that additional government unemployment benefit in addition to what you are receiving from the state or what you would receive if you have exhausted your state benefits. Now, if the limits for income are what they were in the previous bill, that $600 payment per person will be for people who make up to $75,000, and couples that make up to $150,000 can expect a $1,200 check. That's for the couple together. So again, still $600 per person. But again, we're still waiting to see the text of that bill. Now, in terms of when you might get a check, if we take a look at what happened with the CARES Act, President Donald Trump signed that on March 27th, and then the first check started arriving in people's bank accounts through direct deposit 3 weeks later. So that was the week of April 14th. So there was a 3-week turnaround there. But the IRS already did a lot of the setup in terms of that direct deposit. So it's possible that this second round of stimulus checks could be sent out much faster. In an interview, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said that it might be just a few days before Americans start seeing this money in their bank accounts. That's if you got direct deposit. Now, if you don't opt for the direct deposit option and would get a paper check, that would be weeks after the payments are sent out to the people with direct deposit. So if you want to take a look at what you might receive under this second stimulus act, we have a calculator up on WKYC.com so you can check that out. Something else expected to happen today. President-elect Joe Biden will receive his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and that will happen on live TV. Of course, we'll have that on Channel 3. And this is part of a growing effort to help Americans believe in the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine. This will be today is the same day that the Moderna vaccine, the second COVID-19 vaccine, will start arriving in states. Vice President Mike Pence, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell were given first doses of COVID-19 vaccine on Friday. Again, part of this effort to convince Americans of the safety of the vaccine when there has been a lot of skepticism, especially among Republicans. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and her husband Doug Emhoff are expected to receive their first COVID-19 vaccine shots next week. What name is missing there? President Donald Trump. Not yet said when that will be coming. So here's what we know. President Donald Trump, of course, was hospitalized for COVID-19 in October, and he was given an experimental antibody treatment. And that is the treatment that President Trump has credited for recovering so quickly from COVID. Well, a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Advisory Board has said if you received that treatment, you should wait at least 90 days to be vaccinated to avoid any potential interference. So that could be what the delay is in President Trump getting the COVID-19 vaccine. President Donald Trump did tweet that he's not scheduled to take it, but that he looks forward to doing so at the appropriate time. So that's what we're looking at there in terms of our nation's leadership and who will be vaccinated and when we can expect to see that. Now, Over in UK, an interesting development has come about with COVID-19. There are travel bans being put in place because there is a strain of COVID that has mutated that experts are saying spreads more easily than the COVID-19 strain that we have been seeing. Now, the experts are saying early evidence doesn't seem that the strain is more deadly, but that it spreads more easily. So now that's being looked at in the UK, and nation after nation from Canada to India had been banning flights from Britain while this is figured out. France banned truck travel between France and Britain while this is being figured out. The US, however, has not banned flights from Britain at this time, but over the weekend, UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson did impose strict lockdown measures in London and neighboring areas where the Health Secretary Matt Hancock said the new strain is, quote, out of control. So that's a developing situation, of course, that we're watching very closely in Great Britain. Here in Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine, during his press conference today, said that what we are seeing is that cases did not spike dramatically after Thanksgiving here in Ohio, as officials predicted might have happened if people were getting together with their extended families. Now, he made a very important point when he said this, though. He said precautions were taken that didn't necessarily make things better here in Ohio in terms of the number of cases that we're seeing, but they didn't make things worse, and that we really need to hang in there throughout the holidays and the new year. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the COVID-19 numbers that we have from the Ohio Department of Health. Today, there were 6,548 new reported cases of COVID-19. Now, something else DeWine mentioned in his press conference today is that Mondays we do typically see a lower number because of less reporting, less labs open over the weekend, and that really what we need to be looking at is this information in the aggregate as a total. But those are the new reported case numbers for today, 6,548. When we take a look at the percentages of positive tests, the latest 7-day average is 13.9%, and the latest daily number is 14.1%. Remember, these are from 2 days ago. There's a little bit of a backlog in those positive percentages that we get. And unfortunately, in the last 24 hours, 75 more people have been reported to have died related to COVID-19. And on Saturday, in Ohio, the total number of deaths went over 8,000. In the last 24 hours, 301 new people have been reported as hospitalized, bringing the total number of people in the hospital right now with COVID to 4,758. And 1,126 of those people are being treated in the ICU, with 37 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. Now, in terms of the hospital beds that are open right now, this number is up a bit from what we've seen, so that's positive in terms of access to treatment. 32% of the hospital beds in the state of Ohio are available right now for people who need treatment. Now let's take a look at the national and global numbers for COVID-19. Across the U.S., the total number of reported cases is almost now at 18 million. That number is 17,905,466, and the total number of deaths in the U.S. is now at 318,300. Now, as you know, the U.S. has 4% of the global population, but our percentage of cases and our percentage of deaths is creeping up. The percentage of cases is now at 23.2%, and the percentage of deaths is now at 18.7%. Globally, the total number of reported cases is at 77,134,668, and the total number of reported deaths is almost 1.7 million. It's 1,698,497. And these numbers, by the way, come from Johns Hopkins University. Now, as we continue to figure out what it's like to live with COVID-19, there's a brand new COVID-19 clinic opening here at the Cleveland Clinic. It is called a long COVID clinic. So we may have heard the term long hauler. That's a term that's being used a lot to talk about people who experience COVID-19 symptoms for what's a longer duration than the usual case. Well, in my latest 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney podcast, I talked with Cleveland Clinic's infectious disease specialist, Dr. Kristin Englund, about what it means to be a long COVID patient, which is how the doctors are referring to what other people have been calling long haulers. And we came to realize that it's if you experience symptoms for 28 days or more, then you fall into this category. And these patients have unique needs. So I talked with Dr. Englund about what that clinic will look like at the Cleveland Clinic, when it's expected to open, which is hoping by the end of January, and all kinds of other things like who these patients are, what they look like. Are they contagious the whole time that they're experiencing these symptoms? And should they get the vaccine? And lots of other information about these long COVID patients. So go ahead and give that a listen. We've got that linked on WKYC.com. You can just search for 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney on your favorite podcast platform as well, and you can also find it that way. Now, speaking of people whose symptoms for COVID-19 have persisted, that includes Cleveland Browns' Myles Garrett. He is still dealing with the effects of COVID-19. That's what he said in his post-game interview after the Browns beat the Giants last night. Now remember, Myles Garrett was initially placed on the NFL's reserve COVID-19 list on November 20th. So today, being December 21st, that's more than a month now. And he did have to miss 2 games. He had to miss the Philadelphia Eagles game and the Jacksonville Jaguars game. He was back when the Browns played the Tennessee Titans, also the Baltimore Ravens, and yesterday over the New York Giants. But he has said that he has felt the impacts of this on the field, and it's been a challenge for him. And he said yesterday when he came to the post-game interview that he had just gotten over a coughing fit in the locker room. He said that he's trying to get some water into his system and just be able to breathe. And he said that taking big, deep breaths is tough right now. He mentioned shortness of breath and how that can turn into a cough or getting choked up, and you just have to find a way to fight through it. He said that when he gets off the field, that's when he has a chance to catch his breath and maybe go see someone and try to work with someone to help his symptoms. And he's hoping that the Browns make it to the playoffs and that he's trying to get himself as close to 100% as possible. So we're definitely wishing Myles Garrett the best. Hopefully those symptoms ease up for him sooner rather than later. Now, in the post-game interviews as well, we know that Baker Mayfield has been dropping those pop culture references. Well, we had another win last night, so we got another quote from Baker Mayfield, and this time it was from the 90s music group TLC. So in the interview, he was talking about the Giants quarterback Colt McCoy and his performance, and he said, "Colt's a winner. I grew up in Austin watching him play at Texas. He's a winner. He's going to always have whatever team he's playing for in the game, and so we just have to stay in there and realize as long as we don't go chasing waterfalls, we're going to be in the game." So obviously that's a reference to TLC's 1994 song Waterfalls. And then he brought up one of their most popular songs, 1999's No Scrubs. He was talking about wide receiver Jarvis Landry, and he said, "We don't want no scrubs. We've got some dogs outside. We've got some guys that we're very proud of." Jarvis Landry is not a scrub. And congratulations again to the Browns for winning against the Giants last night. Score was 20-6, and now the Browns record has improved to 10-4, which is a beautiful thing to say. One more thing to remind you of today. Today is the winter solstice, and that is the darkest day of the year because we get the least direct sunlight on the winter solstice on today, Monday, December 21st. But today is also the day where you can get the best view of a Christmas star, which is what it's being called, and that is Jupiter and Saturn becoming very close together. And this is actually the closest they've been in almost 800 years. So it's going to look like one big Christmas star, and that will be the best view just after sunset, which, by the way, sunset is at 5 p.m. today. So here's what you need to do. Just after sunset, look up in the southwest sky and you will see the 2 neighboring lights just above the horizon. But make sure you do it, pretty quickly after sunset because for most people by 7 to 8 p.m. they will drop below the horizon. You won't be able to see them. So as long as it's a clear night tonight, which hopefully it is, we will have to check with our weather team on that. Then we'll be able to see the Christmas star with the best possible view tonight. That is it for your 3 News Now update for Monday, December 21st. I'll see you next up on What's New with our trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment. And here's another reminder. This is also available as a podcast, so just search for 3 News Now with Stephanie Haney. You can leave a subscription and a rating and a review. Share it with your friends because sharing is caring. That's it for me. I will see you on What's New. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Everyone stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.